I'm here with nothing to worry about.
A freezing castle, a real skeleton, and chaos behind the glitter. The disaster that Hollywood buried became a cult revolution.
Does this castle look familiar? Well, it should. Especially if you're a fan of the movie The Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's right. This is Dr. Frankenfurter's castle.
From the outside, the castle in the Rocky Horror Picture Show looked like something out of a gothic fairy tale. On screen, it glowed with color and mystery, but behind the scenes, it was freezing. The movie was shot in Oakley Court, a decaying English mansion with broken windows, no heating, and rain leaking through every crack, and the cast was shivering. Susan Sarandon, who played Janet, caught pneumonia halfway through filming. She spent days wrapped in jackets, her teeth chattering between takes. When she begged for better conditions, the director, Jim Sharman, said that there wasn't time. The show had to go on, and it did. Every scene you see of Janet trembling in her lingerie, that's not acting, that's the cold biting through her skin. The cast later joked that their sweaty look came from frost, not from heat. The truth is, the movie's steamy energy was born out of misery. Pain became passion, discomfort became art, and that mansion, as cruel as it was, gave the movie its soul. Tim Curry's performance as Dr. Frankenfurter is one of cinema's greatest transformations. That voice, half royal, half rock star, became iconic, but studio executives hated it at first. On stage, Curry had played Frank with a thick German accent, but for the movie, he changed it after hearing a woman on a bus speak like British royalty. That's it, he thought. Frank is the queen.
A very sort of Debbie lady in a headscarf turned to a friend who was sitting in front of me and she said, "Do you have a house in the town or a house in the country?" And the phrase had always stuck in my mind, and so that's the voice that I used.
I see.
It became a sort of trademark of a movie.
Fox executives panicked. They told him Americans wouldn't understand a transvestite who sounded like the Queen of England. But Curry refused to change it. He believed that Frank needed class mixed with filth, authority mixed with madness. And his gamble worked. That smooth, regal tone became the soul of the movie. Imagine Rocky Horror without that voice. It just wouldn't be the same. Curry didn't just play Frank, he ruled him. He gave the film its heart, its humor, and its menace all rolled into one velvet accent.
I thought there's no use getting.
The hot patootie scene is pure madness. Lights, smoke, rock music, and a motorcycle ripping through the lab. But very few people know how dangerous that moment really was. Meatloaf, who played Eddie, wasn't a biker. His stunt double tried to handle the motorcycle first, but crashed into the set wall. When Meatloaf volunteered to do it himself, the crew begged him not to, but he insisted. The result was chaos. He lost control, nearly hit several crew members, and crashed again. And the final edit, those quick cuts and shaky shots weren't planned, they were the only usable footage. Meatloaf later said he was terrified during the scene, but his panic made the moment look real. That energy, that fear, gave Eddie life. The motorcycle almost ended his career, but it also gave him one of his most iconic moments. Now, that's the beauty of Rocky Horror. Every disaster somehow turned gold. The opening credits of Rocky Horror are unforgettable. A pair of red lips singing science fiction double feature. Fans assumed they belonged to Patricia Quinn, who played Magenta. But the truth? The lips were hers, but the voice wasn't. Director Jim Sharman had writer Richard O'Brien, who played Riff Raff, record the vocals. Now, Patricia Quinn only found out when she arrived on set. Naturally, she was furious, but she had no choice but to continue. In the end, her lips and O'Brien's voice created one of cinema's most iconic openings. That combination of male voice and female mouth captured the film's entire message before the first line of dialogue. Gender, identity, and confusion all rolled into one hypnotic image. Sometimes accidents create the greatest art. The production wasn't glamorous, it was grueling. Barry Bostwick, who played Brad, cut his hand open during the time warp dance after smashing it into a candelabra. His finger bled for the rest of the scene, and you can see him wincing on film. But the guy didn't stop because, frankly, nobody could afford to. The mansion's roof leaked so badly that the crew had to dodge puddles while filming. Electrical equipment set inches away from standing water. Everybody was terrified that something would catch fire or, worse, electrocute somebody. Rats scurried between tanks. Oakley Court wasn't a movie set, it was a health hazard dressed in glitter. And yet, somehow that chaos gave the movie its energy. The discomfort, the exhaustion, the madness, it all spilled onto the screen. Little Neil, who played Columbia, nearly lost her big number. Executives wanted to cut her lap dance, saying that it slowed the movie. Naturally, Neil fought back. She rehearsed for weeks, often bruising her knees and feet through her sequin costume. But she refused to let them take her scene away. When the cameras rolled, she danced until her legs gave out. The exhaustion you see isn't acting, it's real pain masked by a manic smile. But her determination paid off. That lap number became one of the film's most beloved moments, full of chaos, sparkle, and a whole lot of heart. Neil later said, "It wasn't supposed to be perfect. It was supposed to be alive. That's the best way to describe the entire movie." You might remember the eerie moment when Riff Raff opens the grandfather clock and reveals a skeleton inside. Now, that wasn't a movie prop, it was a real human skeleton. The clock had been rented from a collector who failed to mention its grim secret. When the cast found out, they were horrified. Nobody wanted to touch it afterwards. The producers kept quiet and finished the scene. The skeleton supposedly belonged to the wife of an English nobleman who requested to be entombed inside it centuries earlier. That bit of real death inside a campy musical only adds to its strange magic. Gothic to the bone. Literally. You remember that grotesque dinner scene where the cast realizes that they're eating Eddie's remains? That looks disgusting for a reason. The meat and veggies on the table were real. After several days of shooting under hot lights, the food started to rot and the smell was unbearable. Susan Sarandon's expressions of disgust weren't acting, they were genuine nausea. The entire cast tried to stay in character while fighting gag reflexes. By the end of filming, crew members wore masks just to clean up the set. But the result? Totally worth it. The horror you feel watching that scene is the same horror they felt filming it. It's not just makeup, it's misery captured forever. Off camera, Tim Curry was quiet, focused, and intimidating. Cast members said that when he stayed in full costume between takes, nobody dared to talk to him. Barry Bostwick admitted he was genuinely nervous around Curry even when the cameras weren't rolling. There was something about him, his command, his confidence, his danger, that blurred the line between performance and personality. When Curry walked into a room, everybody stopped moving. That power translated directly onto film. He wasn't just acting as Frankenfurter, he was living as him. The sensitivity, the dominance, the madness, it was all real. When the Rocky Horror Picture Show premiered in 1975, it was a box office disaster. Critics called it nonsense. Theaters dropped it after 1 week. For most films, that would have been the end, but this one was different. In 1976, a young Fox executive decided to try midnight screenings in New York. Slowly, fans began returning. They shouted at the screen, dressed up, and they even brought props. Somebody yelled, "Buy an umbrella, you cheap fool," and the audience laughed. That moment started to create a movement. Nobody at 20th Century Fox could have predicted what came next. The film that once embarrassed the studio became its longest-running release in history. Fans made it immortal. It didn't succeed because of marketing or money, it succeeded because it found people who needed it. For outsiders, misfits, and dreamers, Rocky Horror was a safe space wrapped in glitter. Don't dream it, be it wasn't just a lyric, it became a lifestyle. The midnight screenings became family reunions for people who never fit in anywhere else. Flop to legend, madness to magic, the night will never end.